Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. In this video I'm going to be showing you what I've been doing here in my parents' plot up in North Scotland. So it's now the 12th of March. I've been quite busy the last month or so, potting up a lot of plants, doing a lot of seedlings and things. So I'm just going to give you a tour of what I've been doing, and this is part of the reason why I haven't been able to put as many videos up recently, because I've been busy up north. So probably starting here, this is the oldest seedlings. These are the cabbage plants. They're doing quite well now. You can see they're looking really healthy. We've had some issues with club root, so what we're doing is we're growing them on inside in sterile compost and then putting them out in the garden with some extra lime later on in the year, because I find if you grow them from seed straight on the plot, the club root's often a lot worse, whereas if you grow them on in pot to about this kind of height we're hoping for, and then hopefully when you put them in the garden the club root doesn't affect them as much. So we're trying that route this year. This is the first year we've ever noticed club root in the garden, so it's the first year we've ever taken any precautions to stop it, really, because it hasn't been a problem until now. So I've also got some sweet peas starting in here, but they're still taking a long time. Sweet peas seem to take a long time to germinate for me for some reason. Even with nicking of the seeds, it's still taking a while. So there's lots of brassicas coming on. You can see here several rows. I think there's about 20 or 15 in each tray. So here I've got some red drum cabbage, which is like the really red cabbage. That's a really tight one, a really tight red cabbage. This here is Brussels sprouts, and further along I've got scarlet curly kale in there. Down here, this is a tray of green cabbage called golden acre. I've got some Nicandrophyes psalloides, otherwise known as Sowing plant. That's quite a nice ornamental. Quite poisonous, so you can't eat that one, but it can help deter pests sometimes. Also got a lot of lettuce seedlings, just a mixture. I think it's a mixture of green and kind of red lettuce. You can see them just growing up here. I planted them up in those trays, and then these polystyrene tubs as well. Further down here we've got some Mons 2 peas, but they haven't sown their heads yet. These are the second sowing. I've also got runner beans in here which are waiting to come on. This year I'm going to try and get them a bit earlier by growing them on in the polytunnel first and then planting them outside, because it can still be really quite cold in April and May here in Scotland. And then there's potatoes which are sitting down there. So that's all there really. This is a potting bench that I use. It's quite handy. I've made it myself out of an old bed, so I've got all the pots down here in the pull-out tray. Plenty of storage underneath. I've also got a rubbish chute in here. I just chuck the rubbish down, drops into the bucket. Got lots of storage on the shelving underneath for other materials, and I've got my compost hopper here. Just keep topping the compost up in the top there and take it out at the bottom. It works quite well. It just kind of self-feeds itself. So that's the potting bench I use. Got my plant label. Always make sure everything's quite well labelled, otherwise you forget what it is. So all the seedlings that have just been potted up are pretty much in here at the moment. You can see that I've put them high up so they get plenty of sun, plenty of heat. Most of these have already pricked out. You can see I've taken out like half, or just under half. Same with that one there, you can see one half have already pricked out. And those are the plants that are already growing up in these trays here, mostly brassicas. So I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Might pot them up and give them away, or maybe just bin them, I'm not sure. So there's loads of plants growing on up there. I don't think I showed you this lot actually. These are wallflowers. They've germinated really well. I had some old seeds which were about 10 years old. I didn't think they'd germinate, so I sowed loads of them. And pretty much all of them germinated, so you can see I've got loads of wallflowers. So these will grow over the summer, produce lots of leaves, and then next spring they should have lovely flowers. So we'll pot these into larger pots later on in the year. Hopefully my camera's not steaming up. It's getting quite hot in here now. It's a good sunny day. We haven't had many sunny days recently, so it's good for the polytunnel. So yeah, I've got cosmos up here. You can see lots of cosmos seedlings doing quite well despite the cooler temperatures we've had. We've had quite a few days of frost, but it's been warm enough in the polytunnel with the heating system. Take you over to have a look at the heating system briefly. You can see up there, I've got other videos about it, so I won't go on about it much, but you can look at them and I'll put them in the description below. It's working quite well at the moment. I'll do a review on that soon. So coming on to the plot now, what I've got down here is Taiwan radish. I think it was called Mei Hua Kan in Chinese. I bought it in Taiwan about 2 or 3 years ago. Actually maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It's a big white radish, a bit like the moody kind of radish or the daikon radish. So that should look quite nice. You can see how big the seedlings are. They're huge seeds, so they're really quite vigorous plants. In here, you probably can't see it because I need to weed it, but there's lots of, there's a grid formation of coriander plants. So I'll take you further down. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it continues 1, 2, 3, 4. So I need to do a bit of weeding, but they're only just coming up now. They're still taking quite a while, and they're between these two pegs there. So quite a lot of coriander really. Next section looks bare, but I've just sown this with loads of lettuce seeds, so they're still waiting to come up. They're just starting to germinate now though, and this was all sown just direct because there was no point sowing them in little pots. So you can see there's a few little lettuce seedlings coming up there all over. There's also a couple of weeds, so I need to weed them out later on, but I'll wait a bit longer until I weed it. They're not an issue at the moment. So further along here, got some old cabbages my parents have planted out. This is my parents' plot, so I only come and do a bit of work every now and again. So there's some old cabbages from last year that I just put in the polytunnel to see if they survive the winter. And you'll see a few of them dotted around. Also some sweet peas that they germinated over the autumn, and they're doing quite well. It's just starting to put on some vigorous growth now that it's warmed up for spring. Over here we've got some spinach plants. They're just starting to take off now, starting to put on a good bit of growth. We've also got plenty of slug traps. That's what the little pots are, because there's quite a lot of slugs that hide in the polytunnel. Even in winter they're still active. So here's some rocket plants that we've recently put in. They're just starting to take off as well now that we've got some warmer weather. They should be ready to harvest probably in a week or two, and we'll use them as cut and come again. We'll just keep cutting them all the time. There's another old Brussels sprout plant that was left over winter. It's done all right. It has been a bit stunted, but it's starting to flower now, so we'll be harvesting that just for the greenery. Over here I've got lots of garlic plants. These have only just come up in the last probably 3 weeks or so, so they've really put on a lot of growth quite quickly. Hoping to get an early harvest. We've got some outside as well, but these ones, because we're in the warm of the polytunnel, we're hoping we can harvest these maybe in May time instead of June, July, which is the normal time for garlic in this part of the world. And because the garlic takes a while to grow and mature, I planted a quick cash crop of tiny little radish. They're very small radish, just like that kind of size, like a 2p coin or something. And they're going to be used for just salads and things like that. So coming around, this area is still being dug, hasn't been finished yet. We're going to have a lot of plants in here, a lot of tropical plants, and I'll show you them next. So it was really just waiting now for the weather to get a little bit warmer, waiting for the plants to grow a bit bigger, and then we can put them in. Only other plants we've got here is we're trying for the first time to get some extra early potatoes. Normally we'd grow the potatoes outside, but my dad thought he'd try them in the polytunnel, see how they do. Now the soil's been quite cold recently. We've had a lot of frosts, a lot of cloudy weather as well, so the polytunnel hasn't got up the temperature. And it's only recently that we put the upgrade on the heating system. But the soil now has increased in temperature, and we've now got some good healthy looking leaves from the potatoes. And again, as a cash crop, because potatoes are quite slow until the ground warms up, we put in some small radish plants, which we can hopefully harvest in a few weeks. So this middle area, I've got my sunken pit. And there's also a little parsley plant which is just coming back from winter. So I've done a video on this as well, and I'll put that in the description of how I made it and things. But it's done really well. It's kept the temperature up overnight, which is exactly what I was hoping for. So these are all the tomato plants in here. You can see they're still very young, but they're starting to get there. Looks like I might need to water one or two of them as it's been quite warm. We've got sweet corn down there. Hasn't had 100% germination. I think the seeds may be a little bit old, but we'll have to see what to do about them. And I've also got quite a lot of sweet peppers down here as well, and they're looking quite good at the moment. So all in all, it's doing quite well, all these tomato plants. I've also got aubergines inside and squashes, but I find they need a little bit more temperature, and I think it's still a bit cold in this thing for them. So during the day, this gets up to about 20 probably in there. It doesn't get as hot as the polytunnel. I can show you how warm it is now in the polytunnel. It's just under 25, so it's quite a good temperature. It'll probably go down a bit once I put the heat recovery system back on, but as I say, I've kept that off for now because it's quite noisy, so it could disturb the video a bit, so I've turned that down. But it'll probably drop down to about 20 again when I turn that on. It seems to suck out a lot of the heat. So in the ground, as I say, minimum temperature seems to be about 10, maximum about 20, which is alright. I was hoping for slightly higher temperatures at night, but 10 is just about enough for my tomato plants. I would prefer maybe 15 or maybe 30 in the day, but they seem to be growing fine. Once this temperature gets up to 15 minimum at night, I'll probably bring in the other things like the squashes and the aubergines, and they can grow in there until the nighttime temperature in the polytunnel stays up. The problem at the moment is we've been having quite a lot of frosts, and the frosts won't be an issue later on, but the problem is the daytime temperature in here has only been getting to about 15 degrees, so we haven't really been able to get a good temperature for the heat recovery system to put the heat into the ground. So the temperature at night in here has been going down to about 5 degrees, but hopefully now we're getting some hot weather, or some sunny weather anyway. It's still cold outside, but now it's getting hot in the polytunnel. Hopefully we can get a lot of that heat into the ground. That'll be stored up overnight, so we can get some warmer temperatures in the day and the night time here. We can start putting out our tropical plants. So at the moment, let's say it's the 12th of March. It's probably going to be April, May until we get enough warmth in here to plant the tropicals in the soil. But we'll see how it goes. And anyway, all these other plants need to be finished before we put the tropicals in. And these will probably take another month or two until they're ready to come out. That's the polytunnel for now. I'm not sure if I'll be up here again in the near future. I'll just have to see about that. But I'll hopefully do an update in about 2 or 3 months and show you how all the plants are progressing.